we're totally sitting here with this on the screen instead of the intro.
Awesome.
So we're just gonna end this nonsense.
Way to
you're like, well, I'll
Adam
be right
is
back.
here.
And, yeah, all right. Well, as you can see, once again, we're pointing around. We have no idea what's going on. Welcome back to the Gun Collective Podcast. My name is Adam Kraut.
And I am punctual.com. So many people in the live chat upset about us not being on time.
Again?
And
Really?
I think that's funny. We're here.
Yeah, here we go. Welcome to the TGC Podcast, where we crush punctuality.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, we do. If
We're
you
here.
download us, we're always on time.
Yeah.
If not, well, get over it.
We're on time for the downloaded portion
Right.
of the show.
It's a podcast, not a YouTube broadcast.
All right, so...
All right, well, yeah, so this
Some
week...
things have
Well,
happened.
hold on, wait, we got a few things we got to steamroll through here. We're going to get it right. We're going to get this part right.
Okay.
This week's show is brought to you by TAC Pack and the TGC Patreon supporters.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, no problem.
TAC Pack is our sponsor. They're new.
They're crying about lag now, too.
It's not our fault.
Yeah, I don't know what to do. Yeah, TAC Pack is a new sponsor.
Yep.
Pretty rad.
Yeah, TAC Pack is our new sponsor, and it's fantastic.
All right. Well,
Yeah, you're seeing some people. Let's see if it catches up.
well, I don't know if it matters. You know what we could do to mess with people on the live stream? We could just start moving choppily and just talk
the
like
robot a
this.
bunch?
Yeah, and but it would suck for the podcast.
All right, Izzy, if you could confirm once and for
He says
all
it's
if it's
better.
okay. He's out there watching and listening for the questions, comments, concerns,
Kangaroos, complaints.
and super chats.
Yes, and super chats.
You're not obligated to super chat, but if you want to,
You can do so.
you can.
Feel free.
All right.
All right, so yeah, a lot of things have gone on. Last week we did not have a podcast, and apparently that was to many of your dismay.
People were upset because we didn't say anything. I don't think either of us realized last time that we did this. We were like, yeah, I'm going away, you're going away, and then we didn't say anything.
Then we went away. Well, I didn't know you were going away, to be fair.
I'm like a ninja. I just went away.
Yeah, I know. I looked at my social media and I saw you were somewhere that wasn't in Pennsylvania. I don't know where they're out of.
Well,
where did you go? Why don't you tell us about your trip first?
Okay.
Where did you go?
I went to YHM
And they are located where?
in Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I knew it was in the Northeast. I just didn't know where. And I looked on social media. I saw you were in New England somewhere. I went, huh. He didn't tell me about that. Followed by, huh. I wonder if we're going to be around for a podcast Thursday because we didn't talk about that either.
Nope.
Well, we're here. So.
Yeah, we're here. YHM was awesome. We went up there for a factory tour.
Oh, rad.
Yeah. So they've done stuff with us in the past. We did not a review a couple of years ago on the Nitro suppressor.
I remember that.
And that's still one of my favorites. I really like that thing. And we also gave an award back in 2016, I believe. Maybe it's 2017, sorry. We gave an award to them for the Turbo, which is their affordable 5.56 suppressor. And that can kind of got expanded into what is now the Resonator, which is their 30 cal affordable can. And when I say affordable, I mean it's a 600, I think the MSRP is 630, and that comes with a mount.
What's
that
street price on those?
You'll see them anywhere between like $575 and like $600. So it's a good value.
And it's not a tube with like steel washers in it.
Right. Like we showed it on video.
Like some other companies out there that are affordable.
It's 17-force stainless throughout, with the exception of the Inconel heat-treated blast baffle.
Okay.
Alternatively, we went through the life cycle of it. We showed it. It was awesome. We took it out to the range, got some slow-mo footage. We shot a subsonic blackout round through a machine gun, and you could see the bullets flying through the air and that sort of thing, which was awesome.
That's cool.
And then what else happened? I'm trying to remember all of the things that went down. It was just a lot of stuff. We were up there filming, and I think a lot of people think about suppressors and they're like, oh, these are so expensive. And they told me that out of like a certain chunk, I won't say the exact numbers, but out of a big chunk of metal, they're losing like 80% of that metal to make the product because they're just trimming most of it away. And I think that's interesting. They also, there was something on Truth About Guns that had them as number 1 on the market in 30 cal cans for sound reduction. And for that can, number 1, and then number 4 for 5.56.
I'd be curious to know more.
Yeah.
About the test, where it was measured at, things like that.
Absolutely. But even being close to the top is a positive thing. Yeah. I think I believe that the top, I don't know, 4 or 5 of them were within like a really small margin.
I can't imagine you're getting significant changes there.
But that speaks volumes to what they're doing as a company. I mean, the guy that I dealt with all weekend, there's 2 brothers that own the company, Chris and Kevin Graham, and Kevin is 32, and he owns YHM with his brother. That's pretty cool. So they're kind of ushering the company into a new era, and it's neat.
Okay. Well, I saw some interesting stuff when I was out west.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You went to, was it Mount Rainier?
Yeah. Yeah, I went backpacking for 5 days, and then I went to TriggerCon, and I didn't have a route for Rainier. I had what I wanted to do, so I showed up at the Ranger. Was up 5 a.m. our time, flew out, went to bed around midnight their time, so like 3 a.m. here. I was at the ranger station by 7:20 in the next morning. It opens at 7:30 to get permits. So I was able to get the route in the area I wanted as far as like the campsites. I don't know if it was what I had planned, but it worked out. But the last night put me 12 miles from my car. So I was up at 4:30 in the morning. Was on the trail by 5:30, and I was at my car by 10:08.
Wow.
It was uphill, and then it was all downhill and flat. And let me tell you, I was like running down the side of the mountain because I was trying to get to it was range day.
So you were trying to get there, and you came off the mountain on range day.
Yeah, and I ran back to Seattle, showered, then I drove out to the range. And it was actually, so for the 3rd year, I was very impressed with it overall. It was the range that it was supposed to be at canceled on them last minute. Like 2 weeks before they canceled.
Holy crap.
So they found another range that would provide and support what they wanted to do. And those dudes were out there till like 3 o'clock in the morning the night before getting everything ready.
Wow.
So the guys that John has working for him at Rainier, they're like dedicated dudes. So the range day was well put together. They had a bunch of different vendors out there. I hung out with the guys from Dead Air for a while. Well, with Pappas from Dead Air and Jake from Noveski.
Oh, cool.
I took their, I forget what they called it, but the AK challenge where we were shooting with steel sights at the furthest steel target. I was 1 for 3 with that. And then we pulled out the 300 Blackout Noveski, the little SBR that you may have seen a picture of.
The Ghetto Blaster?
Yeah, Ghetto Blaster. And that had like a 1.5 power ACOG on it, I think it is. And, that was neat to shoot. Shot some of the PWS rifles that were new this year. They weren't new for TriggerCon, but they were new this year. Grey Ghost Gear had their Glocks there. They are.
Yeah, have you not shot one before?
I haven't shot one still. I didn't stop by to shoot one, but if you haven't seen those, they're on Polymer 80. I guess receivers or frames that Polymer 80 is making for them, and they are hand fitting all the slides and stuff to them.
Really? Mm-hmm. I didn't realize they were hand fitting them.
Yeah, which is why
when I originally shot them, they were just
they're better.
They were on Glock frames when I shot them. That was 2017, I think. I don't know. There was an event out at High Bar Homestead that I went to when I was able to shoot their stuff. So that's pretty cool.
So they're different now. It's entirely a Grigos. I mean, it's Polymer 80 frame, but they're hand fitting everything. And I'm told that from the people that shot the 1st gen to the 2nd gen ones that they're better. They're better than what they were.
Wow.
Striking Industries had an interesting comp that was it's for a Glock mounted on the guide rod and it's spring loaded.
Spring loaded comp? How's that work?
But I guess the best way to describe it is so when you shoot the gun, the slide goes rearward and the comp springs forward a little bit. So you have two opposite forces. You have two
like
forces
a booster?
Kind
like
of.
a suppressor booster?
I guess
That's
that might
weird.
be a way to describe it. So it's an actual comp, and then it moves forward. So you have the comp moving one direction and the slide moving another to also help mitigate some of that recoil. It was an interesting thing. So then
that sounds a lot like what happens with a suppressor with the Nielsen device.
Yeah.
And what that essentially does is isolate that weight from the barrel.
ripping the threads off the barrel there.
Right, right. So that's really interesting. I'm curious to see how that would work, especially if all those gases are actually coming out before that thing decides to move.
That I don't know.
Yeah, and they have a high-speed camera, so I'm sure they've tested that.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. And then the convention itself, again, it being its third year for them not being a trade show company or, being a trade show, it was well run. They had SIG was there.
Okay.
Radian was there. There were
was it a lot of Northwest companies?
There was a fair amount of Northwest companies, but there were also companies
like
from
national brands.
Yeah, well, I mean, SIG being probably the biggest loophole was there, but they're Northwest, so
Right.
they're based out of that area. Vortex was there. They're out of Wisconsin.
Okay.
They had a pretty big booth.
They're kind of everywhere too.
Yeah, Falcor Defense was there.
Okay.
From Montana. There were a bunch of companies that I'm trying to remember who was there, and I'm not gonna be able to.
That's okay. You don't have to remember.
Yeah,
everybody.
I mean,
did
you
you
can look
did
at
you
the
get
list.
a chance to stop by Falcor?
Yeah, I actually talked with Jason and Melinda for like an hour.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay. So did you see the new rifle, the new basic rifle they came out with?
No.
I was curious to see what that was like.
No, I was chatting with them upstairs. I did stop by and hang out with Sam at the booth for a little bit.
Okay.
But I didn't look at the
I'm curious to know how those Dracos barrels are doing too, because that was a big deal for a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're not hearing a whole lot about them now.
That I don't know the answer to. The one thing I saw, Master of Arms, they're out of California, I believe.
Master of Arms.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was walking past the booth and the one guy, Powered by Mario on Instagram.
Yeah.
So Mario was in the booth, and he one of the guys there handed me a rifle that I think it was 3.5 pounds or so, but they were 3D printing titanium silencers.
That sounds expensive.
I have a picture of it. I don't think it's on Instagram, and I don't think Recoil posted it, so I'll post that later. But it was really interesting to see. I didn't know you could 3D print titanium, first of all, so there's that.
Right.
But it was pretty cool. That's definitely something I had never seen before. But yeah, I mean, it was a good time. A lot of people came up to me that watched TGC and were chatting.
That's great.
Not very few of them remembered to introduce who they were. It's always they start going. I'm like, hey, whoa, who are you? Like, I like to know who you are.
Yeah. What's your name?
Yeah. But it was pretty rad. So it was a good time hanging out there, and now I'm back.
Hey, just for the people that are watching live here, we know there are some issues with the stream just not working properly, but there's not a whole lot we can do about it while we're rolling. So we apologize for that, but it is what it is. I think that's pretty cool. There was a lot of folks that were asking me if we were going to go, like TGC was going to go.
People are asking about you.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reality is it's extremely expensive to uproot and move a team across country, especially when it's literally the opposite side of the country, and that area is also not expensive to get to.
Inexpensive.
Not inexpensive to get to. So we didn't make it this year. We may make it next year. I don't know. We have to consider, is it worth leaving for a week to cover something? If we're going to do it, it's got to make a lot of sense.
So the one question I got from somebody about you was, am I taller than John?
Are you taller than
No,
me?
not me. That guy.
Zach guy
yes, he was.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm like 6 feet tall.
Yeah, he was pretty tall.
I'm not that tall.
He was pretty tall. So no, it was neat. It was great to see some friends that I only see a couple times a year.
You got to hang out with Chris Tran. That's cool.
I did.
I miss him. I love
Chris
that guy.
Tran's house.
Did you?
Probably the nicest. Well, I mean, I know a lot of nice guys, but he's one of the nicest guys I've met. He literally with open arms was like, stay at my place, whatever. And it was great. It was a really good time hanging out with him and Glenn Plunkett.
Glenn's cool too. Yeah,
yep, Glenn.
Immediate Action Concepts.
Yep, Glenn stayed there too. So we got to. I'd never met Glenn before, so we got to hang out and we had a good time. There were a lot of laughs and some booze that was consumed.
That's fantastic, guys. If the stream is bad, just let us know in the comments and we'll try and
we'll sit here and shrug our shoulders because
I guess there is nothing we can do. Okay, so we have a couple super chats. Let's hit them before we transition.
No question from Christopher Trimble. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Same Christopher Trimble. 3D printed parts to recreate Tech 9. Speaking of Tech 9s, I have something else on that. I mean, I guess you could do that. I don't know why you'd want to.
That gun is notorious for being crappy, right?
Right. So interestingly, segue back to TriggerCon, Invictus Arms, the same people
I'm
that are
aware of
bringing
them.
you the AA-12 semi-auto gun,
Yeah.
they have had on their table a Tech 9 that had a lower produced by them. I can't remember if it takes Glock mags or not, but it. And I was kind of confused by the concept because first of all, I don't know anybody that has a Tech 9. I mean, they are from Florida though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe that explains it.
I don't know. We covered the AA-12, and I think it's a weird concept to like have that be a limited release. I mean, I get it. I don't get it. It's.
I don't know if they're gonna do another one.
I want one, but I don't want to pay $3,000 for one.
Yeah, I mean, I picked it up. I got to touch it, feel it, see it,
And
I mean, it wasn't a gun I was interested in.
You
in
know
the first
me.
place.
Would I want to buy
Probably not.
that? No.
No, I mean, unless you really want a gun that from your favorite movie or video game, probably not.
I want the AA-12 because it's an AA-12. It has nothing to do with video games or anything else. It's because it's a
it looks
semi-auto version of a full auto gun.
It looks like it was nicely done, and just not my cup of tea. But my taste in guns being very different.
There's also the possibility that it doesn't work because when you go from open bolt to closed bolt, things can change.
Yeah,
quite a bit, and vice versa.
So
we're getting a lot of people that want to talk about 3D printed guns.
Oh boy,
we're definitely going to do a legal brief on this, so we'll try and keep it kind of high level. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Adam, my understanding is that people are freaking out about Defense Distributed and their 3D printed file, or 3D printing file, I should say, is it for the Liberator or is it for a whole bunch of stuff?
So I believe there's a couple out there now.
Okay, so
but
there's a
the
few
Liberator.
files.
The Liberator was the original one that Cody had posted way back in 2013, I want to say.
That people were freaking out about.
Yeah.
And that had a plastic barrel too, right? Like a printed
I think
barrel.
so. Yeah, I think there was barely anything in it that was metal. There's just enough to comply with the I think it's the Undetectable Firearms Act.
Okay.
Of '88 or whatever it is. There's so people. I mean, we can chat about it a little bit. So they have the federal law requires, I think it's like 3.8 ounces. It's a certain amount of metal content that all firearms are required to have. So that because I think it was, what was it, Die Hard, the Glock 7 or whatever, the porcelain gun that can sneak through metal detectors.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, while all this nonsense is going on, you got to remember, like, the ammunition is typically lead. Right? Like, brass is in there. Barrels are typically metal. Like, no, this is just ridiculous fear-mongering. You have Senator Blumenthal up there foaming at the mouth about God knows what, other than lying.
I just think it's so interesting, and I put this on the TGC Facebook, that they're literally trying to restrict you from having a computer file.
Yeah. No, I mean,
it has nothing to do with the fact that you have or do not have a 3D printer. Because that's outside of what we're talking about. We're talking about a file.
Yeah. Well, you put it very. I thought you put it actually really succinctly when you read that to me earlier tonight. That they are trying to prevent you from having a file to produce something that's perfectly legal to possess.
Right.
So I found that kind of interesting. The whole thing, what kind of boggles my mind about it is if you look at what the politicians are saying, not boggles my mind, but you look at the politicians are saying, and of course you have people that are like Blumenthal that are foaming at the mouth saying these things are evil, awful, bad. How can we let this, it'll come to a theater near you, coming to a theater near you. It's not
what is that?
Well, it's fear-mongering.
Are they literally telling criminals to go to?
No.
Yeah, but Aurora wasn't.
He's playing on the emotions of people that are anti-gun and paying attention to that stuff. So
I
they'll
I
automatically
find it very interesting that he picked theater and not school.
He did. School was after that. School, airport. He went down a list of library. I think he went down a list of places that his point from, I'm sure his perspective was to drive into the public eye that if this were allowed to continue on, that guns would show up in places where they're not ordinarily found. Which is, first of all, not the case.
This is so asinine.
I agree.
This is ridiculous. Where is it? There's a polymer lower right there. and it's got a whole bunch of metal stuff attached to it.
Right. Well, so
and it's huge. It's like it's a.
but
like,
this is
what do
the
they think is
disconnect.
going to happen?
Here's the disconnect between a lot of gun people.
Reality is the disconnect.
Well, there's also what kind of boggles my mind is the amount of people I see commenting saying, "How can this guy be so stupid? How can he not know who is he getting his information from? You know, the self-righteous nonsense that comes from gun owners. He's lying." There you go. You want to know? He's lying. He's lying because
he's a politician.
Because he's a politician. Number one. Number two, he doesn't care about the truth. He has an agenda to push. I can guarantee you the guy knows that he's full of it. I almost.
That's all right. You almost let it.
I caught myself.
Baby Pee Pants would have been very upset with you.
Well, F him.
Yeah,
you heard me.
Oh,
that guy too.
Totally. I'm gonna make him poop on your chair next time.
Weird. So he's lying. I mean, really, the bottom line is he's lying. He's not so stupid that I'm sure he doesn't actually believe that stuff. I can guarantee you he knows he's lying, and it's the narrative that they've played all along. Same with the assault weapons that spray 30 caliber bullets per minute. Right. Same nonsense.
So let's, short of the political nonsense, let's talk about practicality of a 3D printed firearm.
There really isn't practicality in it.
Because it takes hours to print something that complex.
I shared a live stream of one this morning. I don't know how long it went for, but I can tell you that when I shared it, it had been going on 8 hours, and I checked back later on, it was still going at like 10.
What was it printing?
Liberator.
Okay. So I'm 100% serious about this.
Yes.
I want to buy a 3D printer so we can print some guns.
Okay.
Yeah. I am undereducated. If you guys want to send an email to theguncollective@gmail.com and sort us out on what type of printer we need to accomplish this, I don't know. Keep it under, a couple $1,000 for the printer. I don't know what they actually cost.
They're everywhere from like $200 on up.
Well, we got to have one that can print.
I understand.
Well,
yeah, I understand.
I don't want some junk, but
we don't want to break the bank.
Well, I don't want to break the bank, but I also don't want to. I want to educate people. This is absurdity to its core. We had what happened with Pennsylvania. Now this is a thing.
Well, when I was at TriggerCon, I met Cody Wilson. I actually interviewed him on Sunday.
What's he like?
Exactly, kind of what you'd expect. He's got a really dark sense of humor.
Okay, that's all right.
I get along with him.
Yeah, you do too.
Yeah, I do too. He found some humor in things that I think most people, especially like having gone through litigation and stuff, I think most people would be like crying and in a court, and he's just kind of chuckling about it. He's got a really like dark sense of humor about it.
Okay.
But he pretty much said he's like, cat's out of the bag, man. Like you can't put that back in.
Yeah, you can't.
You
Pandora's box is open.
Well, and the best part is
you cannot stop the message.
He said that on Sunday when I first met him, he came up, he said hi, and he's like, hold on, I gotta talk to my lawyer. And he was immediately on the phone with his lawyers, pacing back and forth. We were sitting outside. He was further down. I was sitting with his team and the camera people because they were actually filming it for a documentary as well. Oh, so you may see my ugly mug on that at some point.
Oh, that's pretty interesting.
So he was talking to his lawyers, and he came back and he's like, well, we just announced that we sued the state of New Jersey. I think it was Los Angeles. And he's like, and all these blue states are going to sue me over this stuff, Pennsylvania being one of them. And so all these states are suing him to prevent the DEFCAD from the release of information. And so they were in federal district court.
But that file is already out.
Well, but they're trying to prevent him from releasing it. So they were in federal district court.
Do they realize
in Washington.
how much of a moot point that is?
No. Well, I think they're finding out. So there was an injunction, a temporary restraining order that was implemented against DEFCAD in Washington. So DEFCAD's not putting up the files. They had agreed, as far as Pennsylvania was concerned, prior to that, to not release the files until the court in Pennsylvania heard the case on its merits. So they had agreed that, okay, we'll let this kind of go through the court before we do anything. But the files had already been available for quite some time.
Years.
The problem here is going to be a couple different things. One, it's going to be whether or not that the release of that information is in fact a violation of ITAR. Because potentially everybody sharing that file has now violated ITAR.
Yeah, but it's not anything new to the world.
Right. I understand that. I'm just laying it out here. The second part of this is going to be if it is a violation of ITAR, are they going to enforce it against everybody?
You can't.
Well, and then now you see the news, and I shared this article earlier on my Facebook page. Trump is all pissy because he's saying he didn't approve the settlement agreement. Now,
What settlement agreement?
Well, between Justice Department and Cody Wilson.
Since when does the president have to approve that? Is that a normal process?
No.
I didn't approve this. You're not the CEO of America. Stop it.
Well, I think what the problem is now there's all this political backlash happening. So of course he's
sticking his
of
nose
course
in
he's
it
gonna
again.
Well, of course he's gonna come out and say, whoa, I never said this was okay. So it doesn't fall necessarily back on him.
That reflects poorly on him because he's not allowing the Justice Department that he put in place. Well, that he has in place, I should say. He didn't put them in place, but the Justice Department is being undermined by the president. Just it's very similar to what was going on with the FBI and the emails and this and that. Everybody's undermining everybody else because nobody wants to sink to the bottom and take blame.
Right. So this is going to be an interesting thing we're gonna keep an eye on here. Obviously, Cody's taking lawsuits from left and right. He's also out suing. The funny
Where's he getting the funding?
I don't. Well, part of it's from the Ghost Gunner project. So Ghost Gunner was on display at TriGicon, and they're going to have a booth at SHOT this year. The first year they're going to have a booth. They were denied a booth.
Remind everybody what Ghost Gunner is and me.
Okay, so Ghost Gunner is the little machine you can buy.
So a tiny CNC?
Yeah, like a tiny CNC that comes with stuff so that you can pop in the code, and it'll run and mill the lower for you. Yeah, so you can finish 80%ers on it.
For everybody listening, my eyes just almost popped out of my head.
Yeah.
How much are they?
They
worked. I remember
think they're
looking
like
at them.
$1,500 or so.
We need one of those
I
too.
think they are.
We need one of those.
Last I looked anyway, it was AR-15s, AR-10s. They had a 1911 there, and I think they're moving into the Polymer 80 Glocks next. I think. Don't quote me on that. But that's what he started in order to fund all this litigation. I forget. He told me I forget how many people he has working for him down there, but he told me like they're all busy working. They're constantly building machines. They're constantly selling machines.
That's fantastic.
It is really good. And everyone I spoke to at the Ghost Gunner booth when I was down there talking to those guys, like they all believe in what they're doing. They all think they're doing the right thing, which is pretty cool to have a bunch of people working with you that are in tune with what the mission is. It's not just a job to them. Like they actually believe it.
I think a lot of people will look at something like that and think it's some sort of anti-government effort, and it's really a pro-freedom effort.
Well, I mean, they're kind of the same.
Well,
not that it's a bad thing either way. And then, so that was pretty cool in talking to those guys. And we're gonna see the Second Amendment Foundation has been the one behind a lot of the litigation for him. And it was funny because I asked, one of the things I asked him during the interview was, hey, how did you get hooked up with the Second Amendment Foundation? How did you meet Alan Gottlieb? And because, well, it's like I meet most people. First, I insult them. And apparently, he was trash talking Alan about some stuff in relation to I forget what it was. There was some proposed legislation that he heard SAF and NRA was working on the government with coming to some kind of agreement on, and then he said, then I sat down and I started to really learn about the Second Amendment Foundation. And the Second Amendment Foundation has really, through litigation and books and other ways, really set the stage for the development of Second Amendment rights as we see them today. And he credits Alan quite a deal with that. And for those that don't know, Cody was in law school. He ended up dropping out, and that was how our conversation kind of started. Was he chuckled and he goes, law school is for the dumb ones or something like that. And I laughed. I said, yeah, only the idiots actually practice law, because it's true. I've always been told the smartest lawyers are the ones that don't actually practice. And I handed him my card at the end, and he looked at me, you still practice, huh? Yeah. So we both got a good chuckle out of that. But yeah, neat dude, interesting ideas. I wish him the best. I really do. It's got to be very stressful, especially going on, started back in 2013, having the federal government telling you that you're on the wrong side of the law.
That's scary.
They have unlimited resources. Yeah, that's scary.
That's scary.
That's terrifying.
So I've seen all kinds of commentary about this sort of thing. Has the NRA said anything about this? I believe I saw something, and I wasn't sure what they said.
I honestly haven't paid much attention to what NRA's been doing. I did see an article that essentially, and I saw the headline, so if somebody can correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but I believe it was essentially that they support the legislation that's on the books as far as undetectable firearms. So the Undetectable Firearm Act of '88, I think it was, which they helped write, by the way, requiring that minute amount of metal in the firearm. But I think that's been it. I don't think you're going to see NRA. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think you're going to see NRA stepping into it as much as you'll see like Firearms Policy Coalition, and certainly not the Second Amendment Foundation.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot more from FPC, which is good.
Well,
I love
did you
seeing
see
them
the site
assert themselves.
Did you see the site they put up?
Code is freedom.
Codisfreespeech.com.
Codisfreespeech.com.
So all those files that DefCAD can't release, they're on codisfreespeech.com. And if you want to donate or join the I forget what it is, DefCAD stuff, they have different pledge amounts. I think it might be a monthly.
What would you be joining?
Essentially for the release of files, but also you're helping fund litigation as well. And they're working on developing a library so that if it gets certified as a library, then they'll get access to all kinds of other documents. I forget exactly what the lists are, but it's repositories of really schematics of other firearms and things that they plan
That'd be
on.
interesting.
They plan on trying to make available via that thing. So
can you consider the fact that if technology allows within the next 10 years, people could literally just print just about everything short of springs and barrels
probably
at their home?
Probably. But that would be
because there's not much else that you can print a trigger, you can print a muzzle device, you can print an upper, a lower.
A barrel would be something I'd be hesitant to, depending upon what the technology. Well, it depends what the technology is. I don't know. I mean, you're 10 years ago. What we didn't have phones like we do now.
That's
now
fair.
we have mini computers. So, I would think that it'll be interesting to see where this stuff kind of goes. And I don't know. We'll see what the future here holds. It's certainly interesting how everybody's getting whipped up into a frenzy about it. And there's a lot of First Amendment implications as well, which seems like a lot of people are glossing over. But that's where Firearms Policy Coalition is like really kind of.
Well, what is the? Explain it to me. Explain to me what the First Amendment part of this is, because
it's free speech. You're just talking about.
Is it considered speech?
Yeah, you're talking about code. It's speech.
Is it?
Yeah.
How?
What do you mean how? Speech doesn't have to be
how is
oral.
code speech?
It doesn't have to be oral. For instance,
yeah, but code
the Supreme Court case of the guy, burning flag, for instance.
Okay.
We have laws against the destruction of flags and stuff, and the court has said that that's speech. It's protected expression.
Okay.
So, I don't know. It's going to be a nightmare in the next couple of weeks, but we'll see where courts start shaking out stuff and what politicians do. And
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting for sure.
And I am 100% serious about trying to get a hold of a printer and see if we can.
I'm sure between the people that listen and whatnot, we'll be able to get a recommendation here.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that brings us to halftime, and that means we got to pay some bills here. So, John, let's talk about our newest sponsor, TacPack.
TacPack has been with TGC for a long time. They are a monthly subscription service that brings you stuff that you need and don't necessarily bring you stuff that's junk. Really, that's what they're all about. It's everything from cleaning parts or, gun cleaning stuff. There's a few kits here and there. You get some oils, some solvents. All that they kind of intersperse those. There's gun parts that get in there, interspersed in there. I got a rail 1 month.
Oh, wow.
A freaking rail. That actually came with a gas block and some other cool stuff, so that was a thing. I've seen EDC gear in there, first aid, kind of survival type stuff, all of that in a monthly package. Now, obviously, it rotates month to month on what you get and whatnot, but if you are a TGC viewer and you use one of the 3 codes, you get a free item on top of what you get from TacPack. So if you use TGC knife, you'll get a free folding knife. I believe it's a 511, but they may change that. That's on them. If you use TGC tool, That'll get you a Gerber dime, little multi-tool, little pocket-sized multi-tool.
Wow.
And if you use TGC grip, you'll get I believe it's still an X-Tech AR grip.
Wow. Okay.
So one of those 3 items you can get if you go over there to tacpack.com and get something.
Rad. So then we also have our TGC Patreon Patriots Patroni supporters.
Oh my God, I hate you.
Eventually,
so hard.
we're going to just send them all bottles of Patron or something like
No,
that.
we're not.
No? Okay. Well,
no,
I lied.
we're not. We're
Yeah.
not shipping that much alcohol.
What fun are you?
I don't want to ship 800 bottles of alcohol.
Okay. Well, if you would like to be the 900th bottle of alcohol, you can head on over to patreon.com/theguncollective, where you can be guaranteed you won't get a bottle of Patron, but you can join our $1 army or our $5 forces. And if you go at the higher level, you may get entered to win a gun.
A gun.
A gun, yeah. I don't know what this month's gun is, but we had...
This month we're doing a Chiappa Rhino.
Oh, a Chiappa Rhino. You
It's
have one of those.
I do. I have a 2-inch model that's black, and I got a 4-inch. Has a pick rail on the bottom, so you can mount a light or laser. I know you're into that.
Okay.
And it's I don't know if they call it nickel or stainless or whatever, but it's like a bead blasted silver finish, and it has a wood grip.
Gangster.
Yeah, it's actually really cool. It's upstairs. I'll show you.
That's cool. Yeah. So neat. Patreon. .com/theguncollective. Head on over, pledge your support,
Yeah.
win cool stuff. No
Yeah.
Patron though.
No Patron.
All right.
I am not doing that. Don't. Oh my God. Can you imagine the logistics of one trying to get 800 bottles?
Yeah, we go down to the liquor store.
You can't get 800 from a liquor store.
You want to bet?
Yes.
We could place an order.
That's not getting it from the liquor store. That's getting it from their supplier.
Well, but it's got to come from the liquor store because we live in Pennsylvania. Speaking of alcohol, real quick.
All right.
Can I just tell you this? When I went to Seattle, I went and before I went to Chris's house, I bought a bottle of bourbon because I'm a good house guest, and I figured that was the least I could do. So I bought a bottle of Blanton's, and I know how much Blanton's in this area costs, and it was a couple dollars more there. It wasn't like anything that was offensive. It was like $60-some. They ring it up. It comes up to $89. What the hell?
What is it, all tax?
Yeah, I said, what's your tax? Well, it's 21% on hard liquor.
21%?
Yeah, that was my reaction. I bought the bottle because I'm a good friend, but that was my reaction.
21%? Holy
So
crap.
here's what I've learned, and for any of you traveling, here's a travel tip for you.
Don't buy it in the liquor store.
Certainly don't buy it in Washington, but
Duty free, bro.
But find out ahead of time what it is in the state you're going to, so see if it makes more sense to bring it with you.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I was offended. So anyway, I guess that brings us to another super chat. Fuego Roboto wants to know, Adam Crush shirts when?
We should do those. I'll figure it out.
Okay, I mean,
in the chat, or if you want to email us if you're listening, let us know if you want a Crush shirt, and also let us know if you would enjoy a Struggle Bus shirt.
I don't know if anybody would enjoy a Struggle Bus
I don't
shirt.
know. That's why I'm asking.
Okay. Can't wait to see the hate mail we get about this. Brandon, to your question, we just filmed a legal brief on that. So, and for those listening, the question was about the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals.
Why don't you glaze over what that was, what the decision was?
Yeah, so I come out of the woods to a whole bunch of text messages and emails about, did you see what the Ninth Circuit did? No, I didn't. I was in the back country for 5 days. I didn't have service. It was great. Yeah, really. So the Ninth Circuit...
You're an angry elf.
Oh, so mad. It was so, by the way, it was so good not having service. So the Ninth Circuit ruled recently that open carry is protected by the Second Amendment. Really is you want the 45,000 foot overview, that's what it is. And we will talk about it. The email address is theguncollective@gmail.com. So, yeah, that was what the Ninth Circuit decided. There will be an in-depth legal brief for you next week on that, and Izzy is going to have to sort through about 20 minutes of footage and a lot of outtakes.
Yeah.
And
There was some stuff.
Yeah,
There's some stuff. So what else is going on in the world of guns right now? What have you seen recently that's really interesting?
What have I seen that's really interesting?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I don't know. It's hard to say. I was kind of out of society for a while, and then I was at TriggerCon, and kind of covered what I saw there.
Well, you got a new gun.
I did.
Talk
Behind
about
us. The Fix.
it's
Yeah.
just in the top of the frame, right? Yeah.
Yeah. You can check pictures of that thing out on Instagram too. But
Did you post the picture?
I posted the picture.
Okay.
I had to steal it from you. But I took that picture, so you can post one that's similar. Anyway, yeah, so I went up to Q, built a Fix earlier in the month.
We talked about it.
Yeah, it was back in mid-July, I guess. So it apparently arrived while I was away and came over, and I'm going to take it home with me. So it's so rad. It's got black accents. I think I'm going to change the grip out to be black too. But earlier today, before we started filming stuff, we came down here and we mounted the EOTech Voodoo in a Geisley Super Precision mount.
Yeah, it's the like ultra compact scope on that.
It's a real short scope. It's I'm trying to think how long it is. I think it's 11 inches long.
Yeah,
So I was looking
really
at the
small.
specs between that and the Vortex AMG one, the American-made Vortex Razor. Weight-wise, I think the Vortex is about an ounce lighter, and it's about 4 inches longer.
Yeah,
and
4 inches.
No, I understand.
It's huge.
I understand. And it's a
That's
6
that
to 20.
out of context would have been
yeah,
very funny.
Yeah, well, that's why I laughed. It's the Vortex is a 6 to 27. The EOTech is a 5 to 25. But they're both similar in nature. So,
well, the kind of claim to fame with that EOTech is that, normally those optics are freaking gigantic.
they're
So
massive.
on a smaller platform,
Right.
it really just doesn't take up that much space. And in the case of running like night vision or something like that,
You can put stuff in front
the
of it.
optic,
Yeah,
you have a lot more space.
yeah, and it's a 34 millimeter tube too.
Yeah, big. It's a big
It's a big
optic.
It's a big tube.
I cannot wait. We're gonna definitely take that thing out to the 700-yard range.
Yeah.
That'll
No,
do.
I'm only gonna shoot steel at 50 yards with it. Can't miss.
The reality is the first day we went out with my 6.5 semi-auto.
Yep.
We were on at 1,000. Like it takes no time at all
I
to dial
believe
that
it.
thing in, and your gun is a heavy barrel, so
Yeah, it's a Bart line. It's a 20-inch.
a 20-inch Bart line. So we are definitely going to have no trouble hopefully putting down some really neat groups. We measured the trigger; it's 2.5 pounds.
Right.
I'm excited.
I'm pumped. I've been
That's a cool
lusting
gun.
after that gun for like 2 months or
You're
two,
gonna get
2 years. not 2
you're gonna
months.
try and get a suppressor for it, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to them about that. Try and get one of the Trash Pandas or the Thunder Chickens. And I think the names are. I've said this so many times, but I think the names are just cool.
Yeah, they're
sweet.
fantastic.
The bipod on there, we stole off another gun here for pictures and stuff, but Q is working on a bipod. There's pictures of it on the internet.
Oh, they have a bipod?
Oh yeah,
I didn't know
see?
that.
Yeah, so if you look at the 8.6 Creedmoor pictures I posted,
It's their bipod.
it's gonna be freaking sweet. It's
So,
not
in terms of all of these companies doing really interesting stuff, is Q like one of your number ones that you find interesting right now?
yeah, I think so. And it's because of the whole lot doesn't appeal to me. Like I don't.
I
As
know,
far as
you're
handguns,
kind of a curmudgeon when it comes to that
yeah, I
stuff.
mean, as far as handguns, like I'm not really interested in anything that's coming out. Like, there's some neat stuff, but nothing I'm like, oh my god, I need one of those. And
Have you seen the Alien gun?
No. What is that?
Pull up the TGC Facebook page, and I'm going to show you something really interesting. So let me describe this thing.
Yeah, you do that.
For the audience. So imagine a futuristic Beretta 92 with a removable barrel. You're going to have to go into the videos because I posted it a few days ago.
It's a video.
Yes, it's a video on the left there. So it's basically a slide that encompasses a barrel. There it is, that thing. And it's very difficult to describe.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, so the slide is actually super long, but the barrel is also very long. So instead of having just a 4-inch barrel and then this chunk behind it, everything is on the sides of the barrel. So it's got a super low bore axis, and it's got interchangeable barrels, and it just appears to be one of the coolest guns that I've seen in a long time. Like, this thing makes the Hudson look like old technology, and I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so essentially, like, if you think of the sides of a slide that run all the way down, if you just picture the top of it coming straight out of the top and the sides remaining there. The sides are still act like a slide the whole way, so they go back and forth.
Right.
But
and
the
there's
top
no,
is,
there's
I
no,
guess the top contains the barrel and everything.
Right, and there's no, like, normally a gun would open on the top as well as the side.
Right.
This only opens on the side.
Right. Yeah, that's a interesting idea. I don't know. We'll see about
that thing's cool. So,
but other than that, I mean, like, gun wise, I was talking about this with people at TriggerCon. Like, there's nothing out there that I really want or need one of these.
So last year at TriggerCon, the big deal was the full conceal, the folding Glock atrocity.
Yeah,
I had an industry friend try and
they're at range day.
He tried to tell me that thing was like a really good. I was like, there's no way that's a good idea.
I don't think anybody thought it was a good idea that was there. That I spoke to anyway.
Well, he was really into it, and I said, I don't. Why on earth would you need to fold your gun in half?
You don't. Did you see what they came out with this year?
No.
A Roni full conceal version. So the chassis, that you can put
folding chassis.
No, you know the Ronis that you can put.
Yeah, that's the CAA Roni.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So how does this work?
So the grip part swings down and up.
Like but it's still a gigantic chassis?
Right. And the brace folds to the side. So
what the hell is the point of that?
I don't strap it in your car seat. I have no idea. But that wasn't this year. So there was a new product that was this year's full conceal, actually, since we're talking about products.
Okay.
I forget what it's called. It's a trigger guard for AR-15s that, if you think of like wings, how they
I
flaps,
saw that
like
thing.
spring-loaded flaps. So it covers the trigger, and you can just flip your finger in there and pull the trigger and flip your finger out, and it covers the side of the trigger, so nothing can get into the trigger guard that way. So I'm not sure the practical purpose of it.
So it's a spring-loaded trigger guard cover.
Yeah, essentially. That would be the best way to describe it.
How much does that cost? That sounds expensive.
I don't know.
That sounds like somebody is going to really, really try and charge too much money for it.
Well, what I don't understand about it is that we've been using the AR-15 M16 style gun since the 60s. I'm pretty sure anybody who's done any amount of training on it has trained to, when the gun comes up on target, you're flipping the safety off, and when you're coming off the target, safety goes back on.
I find all these products that are like creating one complexity with the battery of arms or the manual of arms, whatever. I think it's interesting seeing all these products that make it more complex. And then I think it's also interesting that those same products are kind of making people complacent. Like, oh, I don't have to worry about it because I have such and such stupid product that was too much. It's like it's very gimmicky and just dumb.
I just don't know anybody that would want it. There was in a swag bag I got a trigger guard for an AR-15, but unlike this, if you think of like
but this isn't a trigger guard.
Well, it is, but it isn't. The
trigger guard's on the bottom.
Well, if you were to consider it like the some of the ones that you have for Glocks, where it snaps onto the side of the trigger guard on either side and it covers the trigger entirely.
Yeah, they call that like a holster though.
Okay, well think of it like a holster then.
That's dumb.
I don't. That at least I could see a. I don't
makes
know,
sense
like
on a
for,
pistol.
for like a but maybe for like a hunter walking through the woods who's not shooting anything, like if they want that additional layer of safety, I could see maybe a practical purpose there. And then they could remove it when they get to whatever their destination is, and it's a non-issue. That idea, at least, I could see some kind of use for. But the other one, I was very confused as to why anybody would have done it. But they seem to think it's a good idea, and the market will decide that for them.
Man, the amount of I think the climate of people just trying so hard to innovate that they forget to ask people if it's a good idea.
I'm not sure that they're trying to innovate or if it's more of you know how some people they get in they pour all this time and energy into coming up with something and they think it's a good idea and how hard it is to hear that it's not a good idea, so they just like double down on it. I think that's what some of the stuff is.
When you tell somebody they're wrong, they double down.
You have that emotional investment in it.
Well, that's something that sort of happened with what was it? The Urban Carry Revo system. I posted a picture of it in the trash, and I set it on if I burn it.
What was that?
It was this Velcro-backed holster system.
Oh.
It was really bad.
Didn't you have Johnny cover that?
Yeah, Johnny covered that.
Yeah.
So he ended up sending me all of the holster system, and I threw it away because it's dumb. And we ripped them apart, and they kind of were like, yeah, but this is a good idea. Here's why. And it's like, no, it's not a good idea.
They'll sell. They'll sell some.
Of course they will.
Yeah.
A fool and his money are easily parted.
There's no shortage of them.
Yeah. How are we doing on time?
I got about 10 minutes left.
So let's take some questions from the audience. If you guys have a question, go ahead and post them. Izzy will grab them. And in the meantime, I think I'm going to talk about some stuff that's going on with TGC. So we did some upcoming stuff because we don't get a chance to talk about this as much as I want to. There was a lot of people upset about the explosion video, kind of asking why we blew up all those magazines, because we blew up 8,400 mags.
I did see that.
That was
in slow motion.
Beautiful, beautiful slow-mo. I'm going to release a video explaining that. If you want, you can check out X-Tech's version of that video that just went out tonight. It has an explanation attached to it. And I have a video coming out on the chassis rifle, the Patreon giveaway rifle. We had kind of a catastrophe scenario with that. There's going to be an explanation video on that.
Catastrophe, huh?
Well, and this just, it sucks all around. So the original idea was to take a factory rifle and go put it up against a chassis.
Right, I remember that.
Right, that was the idea. So we went out to make a video. So we went out and we're about to switch, shot some groups, and then we were about to switch to the chassis.
Okay.
Ben picks up the rifle bag. The chassis slides out onto the concrete.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and it just got a little bit of nicks on there, and it's just, oh, man, come on. So then we shot it, and the groups just started opening up, and we're like, what in the hell is going on?
I remember that.
So I called the chassis company, and we're trying to figure it out, and they said, try reseating it and getting it as tight as you can. Okay, sure. And prior to this, we're struggling to get guns to shoot. The Springfields wouldn't shoot. The Valkyrie won't shoot.
Right.
The Valkyrie's a whole nother story. So, so we take it out, but this time, we were reseating the chassis here in the studio and find out that the freaking scope rail is loose. So that virtually... And this didn't all become clear to me until afterward. That virtually negated all of the video that we had done before. So we would have had to restart from day one.
Yeah, the beginning.
Yeah, just to know that we shot it. And I didn't want to take somebody's gun that we were giving away,
right,
and end up with like 300 or 400 rounds through it. I didn't want to do that. So
that would be impressive if you shot 300 or 400 rounds through it.
I think we put 100 rounds through it already.
Well, it's well broken in now.
Yeah, well, that's why I asked the audience if they wanted, or the Patreon people, if they wanted that to happen. So what ended up happening is we went out, we put a better optic on, because Ben and I were basically chasing groups at that point.
Okay.
So we put a higher powered optic on it. We put a chamber cooler in there, and then I put it out as a video that was supposed to be like, hey, here's the verses. But the chassis in the video was basically favored, and I didn't realize it at the time. And I kind of explained this in the video. The chassis was given way more advantage, and it shot better. And there's no way to really know if the chassis did that or if it was, because, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The whole test was bunk from the
beginning.
As soon as I found out that the thing was loose, we should have just scrapped it.
So it wasn't really a true comparison.
It was not a good test.
So it was just really you guys shooting the gun.
Yeah. But
all right.
I was dumb and put it out like it was a comparison, and I just rolled with it, and people lit me up, and it was well deserved, and I screwed up, and I admit that. But there's a video coming out explaining just that, kind of in a similar fashion.
Okay. Cool.
So we've got that coming out. There's a video on the Benjamin Marauder. That's going to be coming out soon. That's an air rifle that's suppressed, and that's really, really cool.
Interesting.
Shot some decent groups with that. We had that out in wintertime. I just totally
got
spaced on it. Yeah. So then we went up, did a video on the YHM Resonator. We did a factory tour. I've got some more videos coming out with YouTube stuff, Google, Amazon, all of these things, like all of these new updates and policies and blah, 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 blah. We're going to be doing a lot of, there's a lot of videos coming. You're doing, what's next for the legal brief in the next few weeks? Because you kind of have that laid out. Next week is 3D printing.
I don't know if I want to tell them.
Okay, next week is 3D printing.
I don't know if I want to tell them more than that. Unless something more urgent pops up.
And there's a lot of stuff going on in the kind of legal realm.
Yeah, I know.
I started asking Adam about the 50 cal upper thing that came down because a lot of people are very concerned about that.
They're going to take everything of yours. I'll ruin the end.
I hate you.
I'm just trying to incite panic.
We're not that group of media people. We don't do that.
Well, oops.
Yeah. So that's an interesting. We had a conversation about that, and I'm not gonna give that away because I think that's way more interesting when you hear it like he explained it to me, and I can't wait for you guys to hear that. So that's kind of a breakdown of what's going on with TGC. There's a lot.
There's always
going on.
a lot going on.
I know we're in August. The Iraq veteran shoot is coming up fast in October.
I know.
That's coming up super, super quick. And
that'll be a good time. I'm excited for that.
Oh, it's an incredible time. I'm excited for you to see it. Because it's, be there and be a part of it.
Yeah, me too.
There's so many things that kind of happen towards the end of the year, and it's going to happen fast.
It already is happening fast. I can't believe we're in August. August will be over before we know it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Do we have any questions?
Well, we have a super chat from John Attard. Thank you. No comment. Bang Bang Bo wants us to test some cheap Chinese body armor. That'd be pretty dope.
Where do you buy that?
Allow me to ruin the end. You'll die if you use it.
Where do you buy it?
So we were talking, Chris Tran and I were talking, along with like Glenn and some others, about helmets, like bomb helmets and ballistic helmets, particularly ballistic helmets, and that about backface deformation in particular. So Chris wrote an article on, I think it was on Guns and Tactics, about the hard-headed veteran's helmet, which is a Chinese built helmet, but the materials are sourced from, I think, Sweden.
Okay.
And essentially that company has made an affordable ballistic helmet that they're claiming will hold up to testing.
Okay.
And they invited him to go down to a lab. So they can't afford to send it to the NIJ lab because the NIJ, I forget how much they charge for to test a single sample, and companies send more than one. But they were going to test it in a lab under the same exact conditions. It just wouldn't be NIJ. And they invited him to do it, and they just haven't done it yet. So he thinks it's possible it may be an okay helmet, but he wants to see the results for himself before he makes a determination one way or the other. But they had a different helmet out at the range day that they shot, and he was saying like the back face deformation. So that's how much of the inside of it collapses.
Yeah.
I think the government says like 1.5 inches is okay, and anything more than that's not. I mean, think about how big 1.5 inches is. Think about your skull inside this helmet.
That's a lot.
And now, yeah, right. Like I don't think 1.5 inches is cool, man. Like
I don't know. I mean, your skull is pretty resilient, but I don't know
so
what
1.5 inches.
I don't know.
I mean, I think you'd at least be a vegetable.
No, it's potential that the material would move, like.
Inward.
If the helmet, no. If it's pushing against your skull, there's potential for that material to move on the other side and pull against it. So it could push.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to get shot in the head. Let me start there.
Yeah, good call. There's a couple super chats.
Yeah, all right. Fuego Roboto, would you all be bothered if there were some cheeky memes made of some of your content?
Absolutely not. Yeah, that stuff's hilarious.
It better be cheeky, though.
It better be super cheeky.
Otherwise, we're going to have problems.
Yeah,
John
if
Attard,
it's not
thank
cheeky,
you.
Yeah, John Attard, hitting it hard this week.
Yeah, if it's not cheeky, then no. Compton Kyle, fosscad.org has all the files available for download. There are tons of parts, including Liberator, AR lowers, 1911 grips, mags, cranks, and more.
That's great.
Cool. There's an ITAR violation. No. Yeah, so that kind of stuff is neat. But I found that conversation really interesting, and I got to play around with night vision in a mall, and who doesn't love that? Oh, you know what I forgot to mention? Spotting.
Hang on. John Attard, who just threw the super chat up, put in a comment right after that, so we'll read that one.
Does he?
So, yeah, he has it right there. So, hey, TGC, I'm home in San Francisco right now and just found out the city outlawed hollow point ammo. Hurts to see
see the city state head this way, but I moved to Virginia. What are their thoughts? If you're talking about our thoughts on San Francisco, we think it's stupid. I'm pretty sure I can speak for John
I think
there.
I think it's interesting when cities do that. I mean, the cities, that's the same city that outlawed straws, isn't it?
Maybe.
I think San Francisco
it
did
might
that.
have been.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what we're working with.
Yeah. Eric points out that there's an inch between your forehead and the helmet. Well, that's great, but what about the side of my head? So back to that. So we were playing around with the mall and things like that, and that was cool. But the one thing I actually did see at TriggerCon that I forgot to mention that I thought was awesome. We've talked about this because I was asking you about this stuff.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, you do.
There's another company's products in my office upstairs.
Is there?
That does the same thing.
Yeah, I know. I know there's multiple companies.
Yeah,
out there.
Go ahead.
So at SHOT Show, I know a company was giving out adapters to mount a phone.
That's the same company that's
I figured
upstairs.
as much.
Yeah.
To mount a phone to a spotting scope. Now, what I don't know about that product or that particular company is whether or not it's specific to a model phone or not, and whether or not it's specific to a size, like it's optic.
Is the one you're talking about more universal?
So the one I spent a lot. I went to this booth like three or four times while I was there, and I ended up buying one the last day because I talked to some of the other people at the show, and they were like, "You want that one?" So the guy, it's Nova grade. What it is they have two different models that are available, but I bought the double grabber one, so it has two springy portions that hold the phone in place. So it's a universal adapter for any kind of phone. You can adjust it both along, I guess, if you picture like the X and Y axis, so that it doesn't interfere with the phone's buttons, and then you can align the lens of the camera within the aperture. And then it has a compression ring that you spin down on the, I guess, the objective lens. Would that be the objective side closest to you? No, whatever that side is.
The back side.
Backside. Yeah, the side closest to you.
On a spotting scope.
On a spotting scope. Or they make even smaller ones that you can probably do it on a scope as well. But it's so that way you can then either record video or you can take pictures through it. So there's actually a thing called digiscoping that people do where it's mainly with animals, I think, but they mount this stuff. But anyway, so this thing's made of like it's made of aluminum. It's got a little bit of polymer in there, and the guy himself is an engineer who designs stuff on naval vessels. He was telling me he designed like a crane that was as long as the room and can lift 100 tons at the other side.
Wow.
In hearing this and seeing it and talking to the guys at Vortex who have played around with other products on the market, they were like, "That's the one you want. Go buy that one."
Really?
Yeah. So I ended up with one of those.
I'm interested to see how that one compares to the one.
I forgot to bring it with me.
Yeah.
I'll bring it next week. But what I found interesting about it, because I know some of the other ones on the market, and I don't know if what you have is one of those, but are specific to a phone, and that's all well and good. But if I upgrade my phone, then I'm SOL.
Right.
Or if you don't support my phone, I'm SOL.
Right. Agreed.
So,
so if that's good, that might be the ticket.
It was a little expensive, but it looks like it's going to last.
How much is a little expensive?
It was $160.
Holy crap!
Well, I'll show it to you, and I suspect you'll go, well, okay, I could see how it got there. It's over-engineered.
Well, I'm not saying it's not worth that. It's just expensive.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not expensive. I'm not by any count discounting it, but at the same token, I think you're getting a good value for your money having played around with it. So, time will tell anyway. I just thought that was the most interesting thing I saw in some ways.
I'm very curious to see how that works out.
I'll bring it over. So I guess that brings us to the end here.
Oh my goodness. The end.
I know. We started
the end,
late.
my friend.
We started late. We're ending on time. Right. So thanks to our sponsors, TacPack. You can head on over to tacpack.com. Is it Tac-Pack or is it just TacPack?
Google it.
Google it. TacPack. TACPACK. What are the coupon codes?
TGC knife, TGC tool, or TGC grip.
And you get one of those. We'd also like to thank our TGC Patreon supporters. You can pledge your support at patreon.com/theguncollective. And as always, find us on social media at The Gun Collective everywhere, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Full30. You can check me out on Instagram at The Adam Kraut. Make sure to leave your comments, suggestions, feedback in our email at theguncollective@gmail.com. Feel free to shoot us a message on Facebook as well. Be sure to leave an iTunes review if you're listening to us.
Yeah, you should totally do that.
You should do that. And
that.
if you have any constructive criticism, be sure to let us know as well. That's it for this week. We'll see you next time.
Bye.